Hello, welcome to the podcast of Startup Recruitment Failures. I'm Indra, founder and CEO of Jobrelife. We are building AI for outbound recruitment. And today my guest is Bernardo Tavares, CTO and Co-Founder at Lever.tax and mentor at Startup Lisboa. Bernardo, could you please introduce yourself and your company?
Hello, Indra. Nice to be here. Yeah, sure. So I'm a technical profile, been working on tech for a while and really getting into startups. So at some stage, I've been advising startups for a while, really helping them getting started mainly and getting the first investment. And now I am also kickstarting my own. So quite recent, only 2 months old yet.
Congratulations on that.
And yeah, so still learning, and that's the daily life.
Great. So your background is you were a developer, then you became CTO, then you were mentoring other startups, and finally you realized that you have to found your own one.
Exactly. That's the story.
That's great. That's really nice. So, and talking about the recruitment failures, so we discussed that you have quite a few ones, not too many, but I'm very glad that you had time, to think about it and to share with your insights. So maybe we could start from your own experience, building the team of developers and having this burnout.
Exactly. So actually, I believe I've been quite lucky with the people in general. I honestly, I think if I have a biggest failure, it would be more on the requirements from the ground up.
Mm-hmm.
In the sense that they actually, I think I did a lot right regarding the cultural fit, regarding the getting the right skill and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think I might have failed in some points regarding the seniority.
Mm-hmm.
So is that thing? And I have this time before where we were building up the team, and for a while I was the most senior. I only had I believe it was 4 years of experience,
Mm-hmm.
and I was the most senior one. So
Okay.
and the thing was, and the reason it actually the funny thing is that it kind of worked. I was really obsessed on the leading through example. I would centralize a lot of me, and I did some teaching and mentoring before, so I was really hype on growing these people. And I'm quite proud, actually, in the end as well, because I think nowadays they are crazy good professionals.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I consider it a failure is because in the end of the day, it kind of led to a bit of everything being centralizing on me, while I was also doing juggling a lot of other stuff. So is the ratio when the junior and senior ratio is not that right.
How many juniors were on your team?
Not many. We were, I believe, the ratio was only 3-1.
Okay.
Which is I would say a normal ratio for some stages, mainly if you are only coding.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, here it was a lot of other stuff as well, and I was teaching a lot. So in the end of the day, it kind of went almost a burnout for me, because it was really trying to doing everything at once. And yeah, definitely is something I would do different. Is maybe get a more senior profile first, because being the only senior, it kind of make it a tool on
because you have to do everything. You have to teach and help others to grow, and then of course to monitor their work, and then to do everything, like to develop what it's needed to be.
Exactly. Reviewing code, also preparing the, let's say, sprints, like making the best feature for them to learn now. And actually, I did enjoy it a lot, and it's something that if you like to mentor, if you like to help, if you like to grow people and empower them, is something that grows on you. But yeah, at the same time,
it's exhausting.
It's exhausting.
Yeah.
So of course, that's for sure one thing I believe I felt and would do different.
Okay, and how long did it take for you to understand that it's really not really working?
Yeah. No, the funny thing is actually I think it did work.
Okay.
For a while it did work, and I think it just didn't work for me because for
But
me it was getting to a stage where I
but
okay,
when
the
did
next
you
one it's
realize that it's not good for you anymore?
yeah, it was on the I would say burnout stage, because here it was already but at the same time it's not too bad, because it kind of led me to okay, I cannot centralize everything on myself. I need of course to trust more, decentralize, and it kind of led me to a stage where okay, this is awesome. They can do everything without me, and it's because I went through, I think it was around almost 3 years mentoring them for that.
So they grew enough to
Yeah,
be
yeah.
independent.
So I think in the end of the day is a failure, but I also feel proud about it.
Okay, okay. But did you have to take any actions, or just suddenly you realized that you need to dedicate more and that was about it?
Yeah, it was about of a realization of the sorts, for sure. Um, but then again, when you get to that burnout stage, you there's hard to come back. So you really need to somehow change something drastically in order to do
Okay.
it. In my case, it was time to move on for a new challenge. And that's in the end of the day what I did after securing that everything was on place and everything would work out even without me. And that's what I learned.
Okay. How to how did you realize, and what is actually the burnout? What was happening for you?
Yeah, for me, it was hard to be productive. So I was wrestling for a while, trying to be the most productive for me and for them. And like I said, like really obsessed over, okay, I need to lead, and I need to give the example, and I cannot rest. And in the end of the day, that kind of led me for me to actually not being able to code for a while. It was hard to actually be productive, and I think that's not either good for me, for the company, for anyone
Of
really.
course.
So that's for me. That was it. So
Okay.
really hard to be productive.
Okay, okay. So it took 3 years for you to be productive until you stopped being, because
Yeah,
it was too much.
it was about that exactly.
So this was a failure of making the decision in terms of the profiles or job descriptions you needed, right? The hires themselves, they
Yeah,
were
this is what can
perfect.
happen if you if
Yeah.
you don't get the requirements right, I guess.
Okay. What about bad hires?
Yeah, sure. I had actually I have been quite lucky, but I guess I had one where exactly like this. I put a lot of time and effort. I actually trying to really grow this person, and it took me a while to understand that things were not really working out, and I don't know if motivation or, but in the end it was kind of bringing the whole team down, because
Okay.
then they get that this person is also not helping, so the team spirit there it goes, and
It really affects.
yeah. So I felt that, and it got to a stage about maybe 1 year after, where there was some, let's say, an incident regarding the code base, that then was where I actually took the decision. And for me it was the first it was the first hiring. Sorry, for me it was the first firing. And I, I think it's interesting. I learned a lot. I think it was a fail because I didn't saw it sooner.
It's always
So it was
like
like,
that.
yeah, exactly. So 1 year, I felt okay. Maybe I could have realized it sooner. It also affected me because I took it personally, because it was my mistake, my failure of not being able to grow this person. And that also took a toll, because I couldn't motivate and grow this person enough. And in the end of the day, what I learned is that unmotivated people, at least on the startup environment, is a luxury that sometimes cannot have. You need to be somehow self-motivated, and if it's not working, to not force it. So you should be be aware enough. And at the end of the day, that also comes with experience of understanding people and being aware of these red flags. And I think that was the firing that actually got me more, because it was also the first one.
And do you still think that it's a personal failure and it's only your responsibility to not make this person motivated or something?
I think so, in a manner, but also I think I also fail other things. For instance, curious enough, this was maybe the first interview process that was actually done right. So real diligent with all the steps, with a technical interview, with actually an exercise. And somehow that failed me, which is funny.
And the more you prepare, the less you get.
And I think the lesson I took from that is like, don't limit yourself to the typical interview. Really get to understand people, and maybe if rather than just blindly following the steps of how a typical interview should be done, I would stick to that. And it's not really following your gut, but it is a bit as well regarding actually getting to know the person. So I think I did fail a bit on that. Of course, at some stages also you need to admit, okay, maybe it's not a fit. If it's not a fit, it's not a fit, and that's okay. And you just need to be transparent and honest. And I think things would be much less impactful if you had that level of honesty.
And how are you assessing motivation now?
Is an interesting question, because I've been learning a lot with entrepreneurs in a whole different way, because I'm being it's not the same as hiring an employee. Of course, it's like I've been working on an incubation program, so it's like you are hiring your client who you are also investing, and that kind of changed things a little bit of the dynamic. One thing though is that I understand is way more chaotic. You get to interact a lot more with people's feelings, and that also helped me to understand their motivations. I learned regarding that you need to make the hard questions. And for instance, I would rather have a conversation on the same level and really just get to know the people. The person is not a typical interview, just you and me talking, even if going for a coffee, for a beer, or whatever. And I think that's, in the end of the day, the best way to really understand someone, because as someone being interviewed, you need to have a extremely high level of self-knowledge and transparency to be able to just hot off the head start talking about yourself, right? So this way is more comfortable for everyone. You are on the same level, and I learned that. And a bit more. Plenty of funny stories from entrepreneurs.
And so, because I'm also with you on the same page, because like I have more than 10 years experience in recruitment, and there are different schools of how you should interview a person, maybe to create a stressful environment for them, to see how they are reacting. But I prefer to actually create a very comfortable environment, because just then person can open up and you can really learn about the person. And it's not just like fitting or not fitting, it's actually matching or not matching, right? So and when you say it's more chaotic than like selecting an entrepreneur in comparison to selecting an employee, a developer, why do you think it's more chaotic?
Very interesting, and that goes to the root of the entrepreneur, and is a bit of matter of opinion, and I will include myself on this generalization I'm about to do, which is entrepreneur is someone who has a loose screw somehow, and that's because it's hard. It's really risky being an entrepreneur. It doesn't hardly makes financial sense whatsoever, but you still have that thing that drives you through. So
you must be crazy, right?
and that's the point actually, because I've been interacting a lot, I guess, in the last. It was more than 1 year. It was around maybe 200 entrepreneurs or something that went through this program. What happens is there is a thin line sometimes between being enough crazy and be a little bit too crazy.
Okay,
And
that's interesting.
that's interesting. And what happens is plenty of stories. There are stories of people going really mad with the potential co-founders because they somehow stole their idea. For instance, I've seen this
Okay.
where really being very violent in a sense and really, oh, I'm going to reunite my gang and wait for you. I don't know where.
Oh, even that?
Yeah, even
oh
that.
Oh my God. Okay.
No, I've seen people kind of psychotic already, almost. But it's funny because then I got to kind of being able to identify these red flags and really get the people's feelings and not being afraid or somehow to actually go deep in trying to understand their motivations. And on the entrepreneur, that really stands out because he's very emotive. They are risking a lot. They are facing a lot of uncertainty. So that really comes up to the surface.
Yeah.
And if I can make the bridge that for actually hiring developers, and it's kind of the same. It's also there's a lot of pressure. Wouldn't say uncertainty, but is on the same degree the sort of questions, some of them, and really get the person. I think it also applies.
Did you have you had a situation that this incubator you were working at invested into a startup, and then after a month or so you realized that co-founders or one of the co-founders is just too crazy for that?
So on this context, we actually worked with them for a while, so 6 months before the investment.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I definitely saw that a lot during the whole stages, I would say, where and it's funny because I've been wrong so many times in so many ways that I find someone that maybe very shy, really closed doors. We wouldn't maybe bet that this person would succeed, but then he's super perseverant and somehow he actually amazes all. And also the other way around. So people that we would bet, okay, this person of course will succeed, and then it just doesn't have the drive or just give up along the way and
no result.
No result. So I've been learning to be very humble regarding that. But yeah, I've seen a lot of reasons for people to give up on entrepreneurship on this case. And in the end of the day, what you can do is support them, and it needs to come from them. In the end of the day, they need to be the ones actually wanting to do that and go forward. And you can coach, you can try to help out, but some things, and also connecting to what I said earlier, some things cannot be forced.
Yeah.
So if there's no matching, if there's not going to happen, you also need to recognize it at some stage.
And do you have an example of an entrepreneur who was like, acting maybe a little bit too crazy, but of course they were very much motivated to continue working on their startup, and you had to say, no, we're not selecting you. How to deal with that situation? Because you see that the person's eyes are shining, they are all in, but yeah, you just see that it's not going to work.
Exactly. So let's see. They're very different profiles. I've seen, for instance, people who are really high level profiles with, let's say, some degree of ego, and at some stage you need to say, okay, I understand all this. We just are not the fit because of, and actually getting really ground up regarding, okay, this is a matter of fit, not a matter of you personally or whatever. I also had some cases where let's say there were almost to a degree of what do you say? So when someone is actually embarrassing, let's say, a man
Others.
is embarrassing a woman. How was that called? Sorry.
Okay.
I'm
Harassing. Finally, we came up with this
exactly.
word.
So I've seen some cases where there was also some level of harassing, or I don't know if there wasn't, but I've seen people complain about it, and we had to took action, of course. So I don't know. There's a lot of crazy things that can happen, and I feel it's like managing on steroids, because here I'm managing really brilliant and at the same time chaotic people. And I think that's really interesting at the same time.
What comes with another, right?
Exactly.
So it's inevitable. And so you are also helping other startups with their CTO selection, right?
Yes, that's something I've been doing a lot, because I have this technical profile. I can give some degree of filtering and selection on the technical stage. And sometimes I've been interested with actually doing this sort of technical interviews, exactly because I can, let's say, talk tech with these guys and really understand if they would be a fit for CTOs or not, which is still a little bit different from a developer, I would say. In some cases, because CTO is kind of sexy, right? So because it's sexy, a lot of people applying, even though they don't really understand about startups, let's say. And this also goes a bit regarding this is also a bit of personal opinion. I understand that I've seen a lot of people applying. They are very macro, but or maybe too micro, and we need to have a balance. So if you are too macro, maybe you did management before, you know a lot about managing other developers, but you also don't know how to code yourself. You also don't really can help on an earlier stage.
Yeah, and startups need hands-on people.
Yeah. And I really, that's a flag I'm always looking for is, okay, are you hands-on or not hands-on? At the same time, cannot be too micro, because you also need to have some social skills, being able to communicate, being able to...
Leadership, mentoring.
So one thing I'm very attentive is if they can explain the tech they are doing, so everybody on the team really understands what's up. So there's a lot here regarding also if they hired before, if they not, if they can actually learn from those hirings. So a bit like we are doing here, right? And that's a lot that comes into play on these sort of interviews. And not only the technical part, but also, of course, if there's a fit regarding the tech stack. And even if there isn't, if the person is eager to get hands dirty on this project and to build. Other red flag I'm sometimes also looking for if they are too waterfall. So on a startup, of course, you need to be very agile, very lean.
Extremely agile.
You are changing the product day to day almost. And
it's not easy for tech people, right? To be so agile.
They suffer a lot in a different way. Because they need to adapt to business. They need to be willing to actually change something that really give a lot of work and then change it after they put a lot of hours into it. So yeah, it's a difficult position, but if the person understands they are there to actually, in this case, being the co-founder and really dress the shirt for the company and is kind of different from, let's say, someone that just get a requirement. Someone that just get the requirement and and just do something without really thinking about what that requirement means.
Have you ever had a situation, because us recruiters often do, when someone like a founder hires a candidate and it's a failure, right? And they blame recruiters for choosing, the wrong candidates for them. Have you had the situation that you offered, or suggested to hire this or that CTO and it wasn't just working? Are startups blaming you?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I figure some of them may. I did, I guess, one famous bad call from someone who I figure, okay, this person will be the. He was really good technically. He would be really good communication skill. Honestly, everything checked. But then again, in the end of the day, the person was just, I guess, not honest and really didn't want to go through all the way. And actually, now that I think, there are two cases. One where the CTO was really open about it. Some stage it gets to, and this happens a lot when the project kind of gets to that stage. Okay, this is serious. This is serious now. I guess I cannot have another job. I guess this is my life. So they get to this level of realization where, okay, actually I want security. Actually, this is not what I want.
Yeah.
And of course, it would be ideal if you can know that from the start, but sometimes they just don't, and that's perfectly okay. I also seen cases where people just really want to get on something and then just get a quick buck somehow, and then just leave.
Yeah.
And that's the not being too honest scenario. And I was strict on that one. So also I learned. But also, it was not only me; it actually full a lot of people. So it
And
was
the founder themselves,
exactly,
right?
exactly. So people that have been working on daily. So it was hard to blame on me based on
Definitely, yes.
some selection.
Yeah, I find it that still the accountability is the person who is making the final decision, right? Others are just
Exactly.
advising, so you listen to that or not. And I'm also curious because we talked about this like agility, right? And for developers, it's not as easy for business people, right? Because we see business, we are living here daily, we know why, what is the reason to do some changes and pivoting and so on. What to do or how to do it that developers would be very much involved into business too, and they would be keen on changing something instead of resisting to it.
Definitely, that's a super important topic. And when I said regarding developers being on that stage of not being actually in connection with these results, I think that shouldn't happen. Ideally, if you are, I think, doing good management and good leadership, they know what's up. They know what the feature or what they are doing is important, and how that will actually bring impact to the company and so on. So one thing you can do, both on recruitment but also after, is really explain the impact is expected for them, from them, and also what they do on the daily basis. And that's also a good part of doing a good recruitment, is also being a good leader after, I would say. So you also need to make them feel this connection with the results of the company.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, great. And so to conclude, Bernardo, what would be your key advice for the freshly born startup founder who just recently started recruiting their teams? What would be the number one?
Yes, the number one, I guess, is mistakes happen. So it's not to. It's really about learning from them and not get yourself getting affected, as I did at some point, taking all on me, because in the end of the day, that's how it's supposed to work. And that's how you learn. So it's really about being honest, transparent as well, both with yourself and the people you are in the end of the day hiring and managing. And I think that's it. It's about honesty and about some degree of just trust that everything will be okay.
Great, great. So thank you so much, Bernardo, for your time and sharing your learnings.
Thank you.
And thank you to all the listeners. For more podcasts, please visit jobrely.com.